First time ever, young women are earning more than men their age. But this isn't about pay. It's about purpose, identity, and a generation of young men being left behind.
So look, I've been doing these reaction videos on social media, mainly to short form content where I, just react, give my opinion. But I watched this video and it touched on a topic that's quite close to my heart. I actually have a non-profit organization that's dedicated to this topic, right? And that's young boys, males growing up and the hardships that they face and essentially empowering them. So it was basically too much for me to talk about on the short form. So I'm going to do it here and hopefully I can give you more insights and more value from that. So let's get into the video, right?
First time ever, young women are earning more than men their age. But this isn't about pay. It's about purpose, identity, and a generation of young men being left behind. A new report from the Center for Social Justice reveals a hidden crisis. Boys and young men are falling behind. In school, at work, and even at home, just 60% of boys are considered school-ready by reception age, compared to 75% of girls. By A-levels, girls are outscoring boys by more than a grade and a half. And in higher education, women now outnumber men by a ratio of 3 to 2. And while girls thrive, boys are more likely to be excluded and far more likely to drop out entirely. The collapse of male-dominated industries has left young men adrift. Industries like construction and manufacturing once offered secure, meaningful jobs for boys without degrees. Now they account for just 16% of the economy, down from over 40% in 1970. The report calls it a crisis of masculinity. 2.5 million UK children live without a father at home. Boys, as one researcher put it, are more likely to own a smartphone than live with their dad. Without direction, some boys are turning to crime. While most offenders are male, so are most victims, especially of knife and gang violence. And health? 1 in 4 boys in year 6 are now clinically obese. 1 in 20 suffer from an eating disorder. Some barely teenagers are using steroids to try and change how they look. Online, the story gets darker. 1 in 4 young men watches pornography every day, often violent, often shaping their idea of what sex and relationships should look like. We often talk, and rightly, about empowering girls. But what happens when we leave the boys behind?
A very important topic, something that we got John Hofsall, I believe that's his name, because everything he's explaining is what I'm essentially fighting for with my organization, because I literally fell victim to everything he mentioned on that video. I was excluded from every educational organization I went to, apart from uni, which I dropped out literally the first day. I went there for a day and I dropped out. I knew it wasn't for me. I went through all sorts of different hardships, went down the wrong path so many times, crime, everything you can think of. And for a while, I beat myself up about the choices I made until I realized that the system has been designed this way. It's systematic. It's like it's a agendas, reflection. It's like a smoke screen above our eyes. I remember PT, I used to be a PT and coaching a police officer, right? And even her mindset was like, oh, these boys are just killing each other. They're just stabbing each other. As to say that they just find a thrill in running around and literally killing each other. Some of them, maybe they lost the plot a little bit. They've kind of gotten to they've gone over the edge, and it may look like that on the surface level. But as a whole, look at the overview, do you think that these young boys just want to kill each other? That they just want to do crime? They just want to go down the wrong path? They want to eventually be the highest members of people committing suicide and so on? Of course they don't. All right, there's systemic problems that have been around for a while, and maybe it was programmed to be like this. But look, here's where I say it starts and what I realized. And I actually did some research and it checked out. The structure of education as we know it right now has been the same for the last couple of hundred years, right? It's actually been rooted and it's come from ancient Greek ways of education, right? But this way that we know it, in terms of one teacher at the front of the classroom teaching many, you've got to be quiet, you have to listen, be disciplined, take exams, that strictness, that whole orderliness has been for the last couple hundred of years, and it was for a purpose. You can go and research, you can go and search it up. It was made that way for a specific purpose, and that is that we need people to work. We need people to run these factories and essentially build our economy up for us, right? That is why they made the education system the way it is. Now, that system favors women more than it favors men. And that's just the way it is. Now, you might think that, oh, we're playing a victim card or whatever, but I researched this and it's literally proven scientifically. Number one, females mature earlier than men. They're, in terms of brain development. We're talking about the younger ages, impulse control, planning, emotional regulation, attention control, all these things. When you think back to school, if you ever think of the young person who was running around and giving the teacher a headache and maybe throwing a chair, was it a girl? Hardly, maybe your school, but most commonly it would have been a boy. So in general, look, females do develop in that way and are able to just really stay calm, disciplined, follow instructions, pay attention quicker, right? What do most young boys want to do? You look at, it's no surprise, you look at the young child, two young children, a boy and a girl, one wants to run around and fight and jump and play, and the girl might want to play with things and be a bit more slower and so on and so forth. So of course, the schooling system as we know it is more tailored towards young girls. So on top of that, the reasons and some of the science behind that is that boys have more of the hormone testosterone, all right? So they have higher activity levels. They're more likely to want to move, compete, race, chase each other, a bit more a dominance based, a bit more aggression. It just is what it is. It's flipping. It's even like with dogs. They got too much testosterone. A lot of people neuter their dogs, right, and chop them up because of this reason. So boys have higher activity levels. They mature a lot slower than girls when it comes to paying attention and all of these things. So the classroom favors the females a lot more, right? And it just is what it is. So when you're in an environment that doesn't really align with you and how you are and your chemistry, then you're more likely to get in trouble or just not enjoy it, right? And this is why you're seeing these statistics that he was talking about. Now, let's get into one of the last reasons why there's that divide and also a solution within itself. Male learning is more responsive to competition and purpose. This was one of the things that I thought before I'd done the research, and it lined up and everything added up as I thought of it. To keep males engaged, to make them want to, in fact, let's step back. When you think of a young person, especially maybe coming from harder circumstances, because of that high activity level, that way the brain has worked and the slowness of how the brain has matured in that young boy, we want things now, right? We're thinking, if I race you, you give me your trump cards, right? And then now I've got extra trump cards more than you, right? We're playing with these cards or these toys, and I've got some I like yours. Let's race, and then I can attain that, right? We're more competition focused. We need things now. So when we're coming from like hard background or environment, we want to succeed now. We want a reward now. We want to buy clothes, better clothes for ourselves, or put our family in better positions, and we want to do it as soon as possible, right? We're hungry and we're motivated to do that and be great. But the school system and the environment and everything within the legitimate world teaches you, first you've got to do this, and then you've got to do this, and then you've got to pass that exam, and then you've got to work for this person and take shit, and then you've got to wait a few years, and then you might be able to get some money and get a car and get a mortgage, and then, right? That's how the legitimate world explains it to boys, right? And or that's how we see it. That's how they see it. So it's no wonder that a lot of them will think and feel that, mate, I don't want to wait for that. I don't want to wait all this time. That sounds long. You're talking about 10 years. You're talking about 15 years of grind, and then hopefully I can get to a certain level. Whereas the other side of the coin, which is usually the crime side or the criminal activities, boast that, well, maybe, well, you can do this and it's a bit of risk and it's a bit of hard work, but you can jump the line and you can get the results quicker and you can do this and you can do that. So why would they not? If that's based on their chemistry, it makes even more sense. Why would many of them not choose the wrong route? So this is some of the core reasons why you're seeing these issues, right? Why you're seeing men turn to these, or young boys turn into crime and these negative things, why you're seeing the young boys underperform versus the females. And the solution is also in there as well. There's two things mainly we need to do. The first one is a bit harder, and big up people like Simon Squibb, who talks about this a lot, and all the other people who are just fighting to try and change the way schools and education and the educational system and curriculum is set up. And hopefully they get there one day. For me, when it comes to things that are systemic, we're living in a society run by a monarchy, right? Run by a royal family. These are people who are there and the lineage over the last couple hundred years, or at the very least, have not had to do anything to get into their place, right? Yeah, they might have had to train on how to talk and get a bit of education or whatever, but you didn't have to earn your spot. You was born into it, right? And these are the people who lead society, right? And get the final say and are at the top. So changing something like that when you live in a society like that is it's a hard stretch, right? But anything's possible. Now, the other thing that we can do that I am more so on the side of, and I'm a big advocate for, is educating and showing these young boys and males a different way and showing them in a different way. Now, explaining in a different way. For example, when I got to 23, 24, and I met my now partner, she was into science, right? Now, because she was into science and she was able to bear that whole science for, growing up and really get into it, right? Enough to get into it. Maybe it started just paying attention in school, knowing that this is something that she had to do. And then eventually it became something that she actually found love for. Because of that, she was able to just see the fun and the beauty and the fascination and the amazing things in science. But because when I first met with science at a young age, it just seemed like this boring thing with no point to it, I never had that chance. But when I was able to revisit science as an older person, I realized that science is everything. Science is in looking good. They showed it, as he showed in that video, when you talked about the young boys wanting to look good and they're taking steroids because they're just skipping the line. But if they actually understand science, then they would understand how to get the physique that they want to get, right? It's in performing, science is performing better at sports, which many of us young males and the young people love, right? So if you can use science to become better at your sport, that's interesting, right? Science is in so many different things, right? In technology, it's in so much. It's in so many different areas. Science is everywhere. But because it wasn't taught to us in a certain way to captivate our attentions, that's when we didn't see the benefit of it, right? For example, and another example, a lot of young boys and males want to make money. As I said, they want to put themselves and their families in a better position. But the way they're being explained to about money is, like I said, you've got to wait 10, 20, 30 years or whatever. You've got to go and you've got to work your way out. You've got to go uni, you got this and that. And then you're going to have enough money to hopefully do what you want. It's BS. And also, it's not true, right? And this is something I'm working on with software and an app that I'm bringing to the market very soon called Abuna. But what I'm basically saying is that as a young boy, yes, look, there's two games, and we need to teach them that. The first game is the long game, right? And the long game is that you're getting an education, you're building a career or business, you're taking this long road to secure yourself in your foundation so that you're not just rich for a summer or seemingly rich for a summer, you're rich for life, right? You're building, it's like the parable of building on sand or rock, right? You're building a strong foundation so that you can have money for the rest of your life. That simple analogy could really sit home with a lot of young boys. And then the second game is you can get it now. You can make money now. You can do things now. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And but that's not told and that's not promoted to them. All that is promoted is do well at your exams, focus on your exams, listen to your teacher, and that's all that matters. Well, no, they want to be successful now and they should want to be successful now. So they can start businesses that are low risk, low entry level, so you don't have to invest or borrow loads of money. They can get small jobs, right? They can learn skills and sell to people and earn money from a young age, right? And they can build a safety net. They can be able to spend and do things that they like and then eventually travel, buy things that are important, look and feel good in themselves. And that is absolutely fine. So you've got the long game and you've got the now game, all right? And we need to be able, by teaching them in that way, you're going to captivate their attention more and you're going to get more success from them. Now, that's just a few of the things and concepts that you can teach a young boy. But as you can see and gauge from what I'm explaining, there's a lot better ways of teaching them and guiding them than what is currently being done. All right. So it's a big topic, something that's close to my heart. And that's why I had to do a longer video. And I will continue to do these type of videos that give value to these young boys, right? It's a big thing for me, right? So listen, if this is important to you as well, you see the importance in it, you found value in this video, then there's a few things you can do. You can subscribe to my channel because I will continue to bring out that value. You can also go follow my company, You Never Quit, all right? On Instagram, We're on LinkedIn as well. Follow me wherever I am because I'm going to post when my company's posting naturally anyway. And you can see because there's a lot of incentives, a lot of things that we'll be doing, a lot of programs, a lot of softwares, things that we're going to be bringing out to help these young boys. So just by jumping on this journey with me, following what I'm doing, you're going to probably see a way to support, right? So listen, hope you enjoy this. Like and share it if you did. Love and peace.